Matt Moscona joining us from ESPN Radio Baton Rouge in New Orleans, setting us up for LSU and Auburn. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for the best in college football coverage and also the long-form conversations with some of the best broadcasters and bloggers in college football, including Matt, long-form version on iTunes, Stitcher, and Podbean. So the way you just described Coach Orgeron is high energy. The players love him, will run through a wall for him. Sounds a lot to me like Les Miles. So they're two individuals, but I'm going to draw that similarity and let you take it from there. Did LSU just hire the next Les Miles, but without the track record?
We'll see. Quite honestly, Mark, I think that that's a little insulting to Les Miles, and that's not to mean that is not to be demeaning to Ed Orgeron, but Les Miles had skins on the wall. I mean, Les Miles won 114 games at LSU. He won a national title, 2 SEC titles, and played for another of each. When Ed Orgeron got hired, he was 3-21 in the SEC at Ole Miss. So I'll respectfully decline to answer that or make the comparison because there is no comparison between the two. If you want to say that each is a player's coach, maybe, but one had very clearly defined skins on the wall. Even when he was hired, Les Miles was a far more successful coach at Oklahoma State than Ed Orgeron was at Ole Miss. But the program, the LSU program, in 2016 or now 2017 is far beyond what it was even when Les took over in 2005. So I don't think the two compare as far as their resumes at all. There is no comparison. As men, likable, good family men that are energy guys, sure. But coaching resumes, there's that's a blowout of massive proportions.
Well, that's why I made the disclaimer. I'm not comparing their track records. I was comparing them as coaches on the sideline, just in regards to their demeanor, what their MO is, what they're considered to be in regards to strengths, what their detractors say are their weaknesses, and of course, not looking at Les Miles today and what his track record is, but what he was when he took over the LSU program. And again,
Mark, let me interrupt you. One criticism of Ed Orgeron, which I think is fair, is that he's not the same guy on the sideline this year that he was last year when he took over as the interim head coach. When you would watch Ed on the sideline last year, I mean, he's running up and down, he's pumping his fists, he's cheering, he's boisterous, he's slapping guys on the ass, he's getting in the official's face. It was impossible to miss. Now, when cameras catch Ed Orgeron, he's got his arms folded, his hand on his chin. I think he's trying to be more stately. And this is my opinion, Mark. It's almost like he's trying to fight through that stereotype that he's just a rah-rah coach and trying to be maybe something that he isn't. What made him so magnetic for the players was that energy and enthusiasm. And if you believe that players on the field are a reflection of the coach on the sideline, it kind of makes sense because Orgeron hasn't been the same loud, boisterous guy he was last year so far this year.
So it's either it's calculated to some degree, and I don't want to peg him as somebody who's manipulative or trying to portray an image, but sometimes we all, tone down the personality or manipulate or change ourselves just slightly in a job interview or whatever the case might be. It's either that, or if he's just laying it all out there and it's all on his sleeve in regards to his emotions and so forth, maybe it was the Ed Orgeron playing with house money. Hey, I've got top 5 talent. It's not my job. I'm trying to win it. I'm going to let it all hang out. Let's go. Versus, wow, this is now all mine. The pressure's on me and I got to come through, and I'm kind of perplexed. I'm kind of confused. I don't know if I can do this.
Which is why, if you're going to look into hindsight, people like me were not in favor of hiring that guy without those skins on the wall for this job. Okay, I know Ed Orgeron coached with Pete Carroll and Jimmy Johnson and some all-time greats. But if you spend your entire career as a surgical assistant and you spend your life in the operating room alongside a surgeon, it ain't the same thing as when a scalpel's in your hand. So I think Ed Orgeron is tasting a little bit of that right now and trying to figure out who he is as a head coach. And there's going to be some growing pains, as we've seen already. And for his sake, for athletic director Joe Oliva's sake, for the sake of the LSU program, better figure it out sooner than later.
Urban Meyer made a comment at his news conference a couple of weeks ago because in 2 consecutive games, he faced former assistants in DJ Durkin at Maryland and Chris Ash at Rutgers, and asked, did you know that they were head coaching material? And he said, I know head coaching material. And they're not always the best assistant coaches or the best coordinators. They usually are, typically, but there's sometimes a better coordinator, a great coordinator or assistant coach that's always going to be an assistant coach or coordinator, or shouldn't be elevated to head coach. That assistant who should be a head coach someday just has that big picture mindset, concept, and can lead a team, lead a program, lead a vision into the future. And that's something that not everyone has. All right, Matt Moscona from ESPN Radio there in Baton Rouge and New Orleans, setting us up with LSU football at 4-2, taking on Auburn, the Tigers. Those Tigers on the Plains are 5-1. All right, Matt, we always appreciate the conversation and the insight.
My pleasure, Mark. Thanks for having me.